I continue to read from the Hollywood Gospel of Charles Manson. To the family, a few years later, Manson spoke of the Beatles as the soul and part of the whole in the infinite. When he delivered the helter-skelter prophecy around the campfire at Myers Ranch, the family members believed it. At that point, Charlie's credibility seemed indisputable. For weeks, he had been talking of revolution, prophesizing it. We had listened to him rap. We were geared for it, making music to program the young love. Then, from across the Atlantic, the hottest music group in the world substantiates Charlie with an album which is almost blood-curdling in its depiction of violence. It was uncanny. In My Life with Charles Manson, Paul Watkins wrote that Manson spent hours quoting and interpreting Revelation to the family, particularly verses, or like Quentin Tarantino says, particularly verses from chapter 9. In an autobiography written with assistance some years after the murders, Tex Watson said that apart from chapter 9 of the book of Revelation, the Bible had absolutely no meaning in our life in the family. Even so, Watson stated that we knew that Charlie was Jesus Christ. For a period in his childhood, Manson lived with an aunt and uncle while his mother was in prison. He later told a counselor that the aunt and uncle had some marital difficulty until they became interested in religion and became very extreme. Beatles lyrics as interpreted by Manson. I will. Lyric. And when at last I find you, your song will fill the air. Sing it loud so I can hear you. Make it easy to be near you. Meaning, the Beatles are looking for Jesus Christ, who is Manson. Honey Pie. Lyric. Oh, honey pie, my position is tragic. Come and show me the magic of your Hollywood song. Meaning, the Beatles know Jesus Christ has returned to earth and is in Los Angeles. They want Manson to create his song, that is his album, that will set off Helter Skelter. Lyric. Oh honey pie, you are driving me frantic. Sail across the Atlantic to be where you belong. Meaning, the Beatles want Jesus Christ to come to England. Consequence. In early 1969, Manson and his female followers attempt to contact the Beatles by letter, telegram, and telephone. They are struggling to make clear to the Beatles that is they, the Beatles, who are to come across the Atlantic to join the family in Death Valley. Lyric. I'm in love, but I'm lazy. Meaning, the Beatles love Jesus Christ, but are too lazy to go looking for him. They've worn themselves out in a trip to India to visit the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, whom they now regard as a false prophet. Don't pass me by. Lyric. I listen for your footsteps coming up the drive. Listen for your footsteps, but they don't arrive. Waiting for your knock, dear, on my old front door. I don't hear it. Does it mean you don't love me anymore? I hear the clock a ticking on the mantel shelf. See, the hands ain't moving, but I'm by myself. I wonder where you are tonight and why I'm by myself. I don't see you. Does it mean you don't love me anymore? Meaning, the Beatles are calling for Jesus Christ, who is Manson. Your blues. Lyric. Yes, I'm lonely, wanna die. Yes, I'm lonely, wanna die. If I ain't dead already, girl, you know the reason why. Meaning, the Beatles are calling for Jesus Christ, who is Manson. Blue Jay Way. Lyric. There's a fog upon LA, and my friends have lost their way. They'll be over soon, they said. Now they've lost themselves instead. Please don't be long. Please don't you be very long, or I may be asleep. Meaning, the Beatles are calling for Jesus Christ, who is Manson. Let me take a swig of the brewski. This connects the Helter Skelter prophecy with a song from Outside, the White Album. Blue Jay Way appeared on Magical Mystery Tour, the 1967 album that preceded the White Album and that had itself influenced Manson. The family had come to call its roundabout journey from its place of origin, San Francisco, to its place of settlement, the Los Angeles area, the Magical Mystery Tour. The primary sources of information on Helter Skelter do not detail Manson's interpretation of the lyrics of this song. If the Friends are imagined to be the Beatles looking for Manson in Los Angeles, the lyrics retain their ordinary sense, in which someone is trying to get to a place in LA, not out of it. On the other hand, the Friends are the family who, because of the fog upon LA, have lost their way to the Beatles in England. The interpretation would seem to be consistent with Manson's view that the lyrics are the lyrics are a call to him. Please don't you be very long. And that the Beatles want him to sail across the Atlantic. See Honey Pie above. Blue Jay Way is the name of an actual Los Angeles street. The primary source of information about Helter Skelter do not indicate whether Manson knew that. George Harrison was staying at a house on that street when he wrote the song. Sexy Sadie. Significance. Manson had renamed family member Susan Atkins Sadie Mae Glutz long before the release of the White Album. This served to reinforce the mental connection Manson felt he had with the Beatles. In San Francisco, where she met Manson, Atkins had been a topless dancer. Paul Watkins wrote that Atkins thrived on sex, and he even seemed to suggest she had the nickname Sexy Sadie before the family heard the song. Similarly, Tex Watson wrote that the words of Sexy Sadie fit Atkins so well that it made us all sure the Beatles had to be singing directly to us. Watson specifically noted that the song's title character came along to turn on everyone, broke the rules, and laid it down for all to see. Atkins, he said, had broken all the rules sexually and liked to talk about her experience and lack of inhibitions. Rocky Raccoon. Significance. Rocky Raccoon means coon, vulgar term for a black man. Of all the Beatles songs known to have been connected with Helter Skelter, this is the only one that mentions the Bible. It is possibly the only Beatles song at all that mentions the Bible. A play on the Gideon's international practice of leaving Bibles in hotel rooms. The references are to a Bible left in the room of the title character by a Gideon. So one day, Rocky Raccoon walked into town, booked himself a room in the local saloon, Rocky Raccoon. Checked into his room, only to find Gideon's Bible. Now Rocky Raccoon, he fell back in his room, only to find Gideon's Bible. Gideon checked out, and he left it, no doubt, to help with Good Rocky's revival. Manson made the connection in the period before his trial. He was visited at the Los Angeles County Jail by David Dalton and David Felton, who were preparing a Rolling Stone story about him that appeared in the magazine in June 1970. In an article in the October 1998 issue of the periodical Gadfly, Dalton recounting the visit to Manson, relayed the remarks Manson made to Felton and him about Rocky Raccoon. "Coon," said Charlie. "You know that's a word they use for black people. You know the line, Gideon checked out and left no doubt to help good Rocky's revival. Rocky's revival. Revival. It means coming back to life. The black man is going to come into power again. Let me repeat that part. And then I want you to do the research of what he means coming back to power again. It means coming back to life. The black man is going to come into power again. Gideon checks out means that it's all written out there in the New Testament, in the book of Revelations. Happiness is a warm gun. Significance. The Beatles are telling blacks to get guns and fight whites. Sample lyric. When I hold you in my arms and I feel my finger on your trigger, I know no one can do me no harm, because happiness is a warm gun. Bang, bang, shoot, shoot. While in the Death Valley area, after the New Year's Eve gathering at which Manson announced Helter Skelter, the family played over and over the White Album's 5 following songs. Blackbird. Lyric. Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Meaning, the black man is going to arise and overthrow the white man. The Beatles are programming blacks to rise. In detailing Helter Skelter in his autobiography, Tex Watson invoked this lyric obliquely. The white establishment would slaughter thousands of blacks, but actually only managed to eliminate all the Uncle Toms, since the true black race, sometimes Charlie thought they were the black Muslims. Let me repeat that! Listen and listen good. Since the true black race, sometimes Charlie thought they were the black Muslims, sometimes the Panthers, would have hidden, waiting for their moment. Emphasis added. Helter Skelter. Lyric. When I get to the bottom, I go back to the top of the slide, where I stop and I turn and I go for a ride. Significance. A reference to the family's emergence from the bottomless pit, the underground Death Valley hideaway where the group will escape the violence of Helter Skelter. Oh, time for another sip, baby. In British England, or rather, in British English, Helter Skelter not only has its meaning of confused and confusedly, but is the name of an amusement park slide, which this portion of the lyrics suggests is one of the term's surface denotations in the song. There is nothing to indicate Manson was aware of this meaning. Lyric. Look out, Helter Skelter. She's coming down fast. Yes, she is. Meaning, the upcoming explosion of race-based violence is imminent. These are the last few months, weeks, perhaps days of the old order. Even to someone unaware that Helter Skelter is the name of a slide, the song's mention of a slide might have indicated that she, in this part of the lyrics, is someone who literally or otherwise is riding on a slide and coming down fast. Helter Skelter, or out of control. In My Life with Charles Manson, Paul Watkins makes clear Manson construed she as a reference to the words Helter Skelter themselves. It is Helter Skelter, which in America at least, can be the noun, confusion, that is coming down fast. Is imminent, i.e., I always forget what that means. I know E.G.'s example given. Anyway. Let me read that again. It is Helter Skelter, which in America, at least, can be the noun confusion that is coming down fast, is imminent. In trial testimony, Greg Jacobson, who first met Manson at the home of Beach Boy Dennis Wilson in May or early summer of 1968, described a mural he had eventually seen at the Spawn Ranch where Manson and most of the family were residing at the time of the murders. Jacobson, there was a room called, it was an old saloon in one of the ranch's old movie sets. Prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, whatever the fuck, among the front buildings at the ranch? Jacobson, right. Bugliosi, right off Santa Susana Road there? Jacobson, yes. And there was a big mural in day glow colors. It glowed with blue light. It depicted Helter Skelter, and it was written. Bugliosi, the words Helter Skelter were written? Jacobson, yes. And there was a picture of the mountains and the desert and Goler Wash and so on, and Helter Skelter coming down out of the sky. Bugliosi, I'm going to call him Bugliosi because he looked like a bug to me. Bugliosi, something like a map? Jacobson, it was more like a mural that covered the whole wall. It was rather impressive. Manson also hears the Beatles whispering to him to call them in London. See, honey, go back to re-listen to what I said about Honey Pot. Piggies! Oh, I love that song. Lyric, what they need's a damn good whacking. Significance, blacks are going to give the piggies, i.e. the establishment, a damn good whacking. This phrase Manson particularly liked. Now, ain't that funny? We're seeing so many videos on YouTube with blacks versus the police. And the police are called often pigs. Just wondering. Lyric, everywhere there's lots of piggies living piggy lives. You can see them out for dinner with their piggy wives, clutching forks and knives to eat their bacon. In Helter Skelter, the true story of the Manson murders, which he wrote with Kurt Gentry, Vincent Bugliosi, who prosecuted Manson and the others accused of the Tate LaBianca murders, draws attention to this. He notes that Lino LaBianca was left with a knife in his throat and a fork in his stomach. Bugliosi has to make the point, somewhat indirectly in the text, because George Harrison, who wrote the song, refused the author's permission to quote the lyrics. Revolution 1. Lyric, you say you want a revolution? Well, you know, we all want to change the world. But when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? In. Significance, the singing of in after the word out, even though in doesn't appear in the lyrics as they were presented on the printed sheet enclosed with the album, indicates that the Beatles had been undecided but now favor revolution. Though they are no longer on a peace and love trip, they can't admit as much to the establishment. I'm gonna make sure. Okay. Lyric, you say you got a real solution? Well, you know, we'd love to see the plan. Meaning, the Beatles want Manson to tell them how to escape the horrors of Helter Skelter. They are ready for the violence. They want Manson to create his album that will tell them what to do. Its songs will be the plan whose subtle messages will be aimed at the various parts of society that will be involved in Helter Skelter. Revolution 9. This is the White Album piece Manson spoke about the most. The one he deemed most significant. An audio collage more than 8 minutes long. It has no lyrics. Significance. Manson hears machine gun fire, the oinking of pigs, the word rise. The piece is audio representation of the coming conflict. The repeated utterance, number 9, is reference to chapter 9 of the book of Revelation. Revolution 9 is prophecy paralleling Revelation 9. Revolution 9 equals Revelation 9. Rise is one of Manson's big words. The black man is going to rise up against the white man. While playing Revolution 9, Manson screams, "Rise! Rise! Rise!" From 233 to 250 of the recording, a voice that could be that of John Lennon does in fact repeat what is possibly the word right, not rise. About 25 seconds before that word is first heard, a voice says something that seems to include the words, "lots of stab wounds." But Bugalosi and Gentry, who mentioned this in Helter Skelter, do not indicate whether Manson or any of the family members heard it. Manson also hears the Beatles whispering, "Charlie, Charlie, send us a telegram." See, go back to the go back to Honey Pie, which I talked about earlier. At approximately 3:45 of the recording, a voice that could be that of George Harrison does in fact seem to be saying something about a telegram. In his autobiography, Tex Watson tied the prophecy to one more White Album song. Everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey. Though he changed monkey to monkeys, plural, while on LSD at a party in late March 1969, Watson explained he and 2 Manson girls realized they themselves were the monkeys. Just bright-eyed, free little animals, totally uninhibited. As they started bouncing around the apartment, throwing food against the walls and laughing hysterically, they were, in their own view, if not that of the others in attendance, all love. Spontaneous, childlike love. It would seem Watson took the songs "Me and My Monkeys" to signify Manson and the family. Though he doesn't say it that way, he doesn't indicate whether the interpretation was brought to Manson's attention. Manson himself invoked too "Yellow Submarine," a Beatles song that was released in 1966 and that inspired an animated movie of the same title. The movie was released in November 1968, within a week or so of the White Album. In the first months of 1969, after he had delivered the Helter Skelter prophecy around the New Year's Eve campfire near Death Valley, Manson applied the name Yellow Submarine to a canary yellow Canoga Park house to which the family repaired at his instruction. There, as they would prepare for Helter Skelter, they would be submerged beneath the awareness of the outside world. Book of Revelation as interpreted by Manson, chapter 9, verses 2 through 3. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Locusts equal Beatles. As the scorpions of the earth have power equal the power of Scorpion, that is Manson, a Scorpio, will prevail. Bottomless pit equal, as noted above, the underground city in which the family will ride out the ravages of Helter Skelter. The family would be lowered into this by means of a gold rope. Accordingly, Manson bought expensive gold rope at a Santa Monica sporting goods store. Verses 7 through 8. And the locusts' faces were as the faces of men, and they had hair as the hair of women. The Beatles are men with long hair. Verse 17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Breastplates of fire equal the Beatles' electric guitars. Fire and smoke and brimstone out of their mouths equal the Beatles' powerful lyrics, the power of their music to ignite helter-skelter. Verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. Things that are shaped like unto horses prepared unto battle equal the dune buggies the family will be riding during helter-skelter. In Manson's view, dune buggies were the ideal vehicles of the apocalypse. They would enable the family to outrun police in the bottomless pit and were light enough that a few of the girls could carry them. During the war, the family would be making forays from the bottomless pit. Accordingly, the dune buggies the family acquired, licitly and otherwise, were fitted, on Manson's inspiration, with machine gun mounts. While the men would drive, the girls would operate the guns. Fitted next to the steering wheel of Manson's personal buggy was a metal scabbard. It held a sword with which, in July 1969, Manson slashed the ear of family acquaintance Gary Hinman. On the buggy's front was a winch that Manson envisioned using to evade police, apparently in helter-skelter. He would fling the winch's rope up into a tree and then winch himself up out of sight as pursuing officers would drive haplessly by. In an article published in Los Angeles Magazine in July 2009, as the 40th anniversary of the Tate LaBianca murders approached, former Manson associate Catherine Scher was quoted as follows: Charlie talked about helter-skelter every night. We'd learn to live off the land. We'd live in the desert and come in on dune buggies and rescue the orphaned white babies. We'd be the saviors. Verse 15. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. The 4 angels equal the Beatles, prophets who are preparing the way for Jesus Christ, Manson, to lead the chosen people away to safety. Slay the third part of men equals destroy the white race, that is, it would seem, one of the 3 races. Verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. 200,000 horsemen equal motorcycle gang members Manson is attempting to recruit into the family in advance of helter-skelter. The motorcyclists whose attention Manson began cultivating when the family moved to the Yellow Submarine were to be the family's needed military wing. They and the family would cruise through helter-skelter in the manner of a flock of birds, all churning in one direction or another without even a sound from their leader. If the cyclists were to be worthy of surviving helter-skelter alongside the family, it was of course necessary they attain the family's level of hippie enlightenment. Toward this end, Manson unleashed his girls as seductresses to wean the gang members from predisposition to marriage as well as materialism and concern with time of day, the latter horrors jointly embodied in the wearing of wristwatches. With a passing exception or two, the cyclists remained bourgeois. Verse 4. And it was commanded that the locusts should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, equals only humans, not nature, will be destroyed in helter-skelter. Seal of God in their foreheads equals a mark that would indicate whether someone was on Manson's side or not. In helter-skelter, those without it would perish. Manson never described the mark, but he left no doubt he would be able to recognize it. And let me just remind you that Manson and his followers, while they were on trial, carved X's on their foreheads. Maybe that was what they were going to do. But for some reason, later on, they changed it into swastikas. Verse 20. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of their works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Worship of idols of gold and silver and brass equaled the establishment's worship of automobiles, houses, and money. Verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven onto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. The fifth angel equals, according to Greg Jacobson, who arranged a recording session for Manson, Stu Sutcliffe, one of the original 5, not 4, Beatles. According to family members such as Tex Watson and Paul Watkins, Manson. Chapter 7, verse 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. 144,000 would be the membership of the family when, in Helter Skelter's aftermath, it would emerge from the bottomless pit to rule. It would be our world then. There would be no one else except for us and the black servants. It is difficult to determine how the family's number was to grow to 144,000. In his autobiography, Charles Watson seems to think with credulity that the growth was somehow simply to be a result of procreation. The trial testimony of Paul Watkins, on the other hand, seems to indicate the increase was to result from the release of the family's album, which would draw the young love to the group. The family would also rescue babies made homeless in Helter Skelter. Several decades were to pass before the family would at last depart the bottomless pit. The group would live there in miniaturized form. Chapter 21, verses 10 and 18. And an angel carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. And the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. Verse 21. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. Verse 23. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. The family's helter-skelter sanctuary under Death Valley would be a city of gold where there would be no sun and no moon. Chapter 22, verse 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. The city underneath Death Valley would have a tree that would bear 12 different kinds of fruit, a different kind each month. The city was also expected to have chocolate fountains, but in that detail, it seems to have departed from the biblical scheme. Chapter 16, verses 14 and 16. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. and he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. In his autobiography, Watson seems to indicate that Manson spoke of Helter Skelter as Armageddon, a term that has come to stand for apocalyptic war. In Helter Skelter, the true story of the Manson murders, Bugliosi seems to confirm this. Chapter 10, verses 1 and 2. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire, and he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth. For about 2 weeks after their departure from the Yellow Submarine, family members moved into, or broke into, an unoccupied mansion that had recently been vacated by the rock group Iron Butterfly. Overlooking the sea from the Mulholland Hills, the house met Manson's demand that the family have access to the sea and to the desert, and that the two roads be joined. With the help of $300 worth of topographical maps, the family laid out a complete and continuous helter-skelter escape route that ran from Malibu Beach, near this Iron Butterfly mansion, past the family's headquarters at Spawn Ranch, and to Golar Wash, site of the family's desert ranches near Death Valley. From Spawn, Manson, peering toward the heart of Los Angeles, really could have his right foot upon toward the sea, and his left foot upon the earth. It was even rumored that Manson or a family member stole and maybe ruined a half-track supposedly used to clear a Spawn area portion of the route. The escape route was marked with locations for supply caches, command posts, campsites. The family's topographical maps were found buried in Death Valley. Synthesis. To Manson, the synthesis of Beatles and Bible was hardly to be questioned. Look at the Beatles songs sung all over the world by the young love. It ain't nothing new. It's written in Revelation, all about the four angels programming the Holocaust, the four angels looking for the fifth angel to lead the people into the pit of fire, right out to Death Valley. It's all in black and white in the White Album. White. So there ain't no mistaking the color. Abbey Road Epilogue. If Manson's interest in and references to Magical Mystery Tour constituted a prelude to his focus on the White Album, there was also a kind of epilogue in the form of family references to Abbey Road, the Beatle album that came after the White Album. Abbey Road was released in the United Kingdom in late September 1969 after the murders. By that time, most of the family was at the group camp in the Death Valley area searching for the bottomless pit. Around October 1st, the U.S. release date, 3 family members arrived at the camp with an advance copy of the album, which the group played on a battery-operated machine. In the second week of October, the desert redoubts were raided by law officers who found the family with stolen vehicles, including dune buggies. Manson and several others were arrested. By mid-November, when Manson had become a suspect in the Tate LaBianca murders, family members who had been released from jail had made their way back to Spawn Ranch. There, on November 25th, 1969, LAPD confiscated a door on which someone had written, "Helter Skelter is coming down fast." A photograph shows the confiscated door was also inscribed with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all good children go to heaven? This children's rhyme is heard in You Never Give Me Your Money, a song that appears on Abbey Road. In October 1970, the prosecution offered testimony about the door during Manson's trial for the Tate LaBianca murders, but only the helter-skelter inscription seems to have been noted. In late September or early October 1969, before the arrests, Tex Watson had left the desert camp and gone on to separate himself from the family. Late in the separation, he too bought a cassette recording of Abbey Road. Walking for miles across the desert to rejoin the family in late October, he played his tape continuously to see what the Beatles might have to tell him. When at the last moment he turned back, an old prospector informed him the arrest had taken place. Watson returned to his native Texas, where his own arrest for the Tate LaBianca murders occurred a month later. In late July 1970, while Manson was on trial, 3 persons were hacked, 2 fatally on the beach near Santa Barbara, California. One of the Manson girls spoke of this incident as Maxwell's Silver Hammer, an Abbey Road song that plainly is about homicidal madness. Timeline 1967. March 21. Charles Manson, age 32, is released from Terminal Island, San Pedro, California, after 7 years imprisonment for attempting to cash a forged government check. He is granted permission to move to San Francisco. Summer. Manson and the first members of what will come to be known as his family leave the San Francisco area in an old school bus they modified in hippie style. In an alternate account, some months of Manson travels and acquisition of family members precede the group's departure from San Francisco in the school bus around November 10th. November 27th. The Beatles' album, Magical Mystery Tour, is released in the United States. The family will come to call its geographical and psychological movement in the school bus the Magical Mystery Tour. 1968, April 4th. Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. Late spring. Having ended up in the Los Angeles area after months of roaming through the West Coast and the Southwest, Manson and the family become associated with the Beach Boys' Dennis Wilson after Wilson picks up 2 female family members hitchhiking in Malibu. Several family members begin living in Wilson's Pacific Palisades home, while by midsummer, others will be living at the Spawn Ranch in or near Chatsworth. August 9th, Greg Jacobson, friend of Dennis Wilson, pays for studio time to record songs written and performed by Manson. August, 3 weeks before his lease on his house is to run out, Dennis Wilson has his manager evict the family members from it. October 31st. Having been consolidated at the Spawn Ranch since the eviction from Dennis Wilson's house, the family members set out in a new school bus purchased September 1st toward Death Valley to set up an alternate base. November 1st. The family members arrive at the Death Valley area's Golar Wash, maybe 120 miles north of Los Angeles and 90 miles west of Las Vegas, Nevada. They load themselves into the unused Myers Ranch, which is owned by the grandmother of a new family member. November 3rd. When Manson and family member Paul Watkins take a short trip from Golar Wash to visit Ma Barker, owner of another unused or little-used ranch, not far from Myers, Manson presents himself and Watkins to her as musicians in need of a residence congenial to their work. When she agrees to let them stay at the ranch if they'll fix what needs fixing, Manson honors her with one of the Beach Boys' gold records, several of which he'd been given by Dennis Wilson. On the way back to Golar Wash, Watkins, who has seen a newspaper while they've been on their trek, mentions a police shooting of a young black in San Francisco. Manson replies that a black revolt has been building up for years. He says the killing of Martin Luther King Jr. is a heavy number. November 13th. Animated movie Yellow Submarine, based on the song of the same name by the Beatles, is released in the United States. November 25th. Release of the Beatles' White Album, former name The Beatles, in the United States. Release in the United Kingdom was November 22nd. Mid-December. Family member Paul Watkins and 2 female family members go to Los Angeles for a few days. While they're there, they see Yellow Submarine. Before the end of December, while back at Spawn Ranch, Manson and Charles Tex Watson visit an acquaintance in nearby Topanga Canyon. When in response to a question from the acquaintance, they tell him they haven't heard the new Beatles album. He plays it for them. New Year's Eve. Around a campfire on a bitter cold night at the Myers Ranch, the family members listen as Manson lays out the prophecy of Helter Skelter. "1969, 69, 69, 69. January 10. Word comes from Manson, who is in Los Angeles, that the family is to move from the desert to a house he's found in Canoga Park. Because the Canary Yellow House is a place where the family, preparing for Helter Skelter, will be submerged beneath the awareness of the outside world. Manson dubs it the Yellow Submarine. Mid-February, while riding in a car with Paul Watkins, Manson sees a white woman and a black man holding hands on the street. He explains to Watkins that that's why black men have not yet risen up in rebellion against whites. They're pacified by access to white women. Before mid-March, in preparation for a visit, they are for some reason expecting from Dennis Wilson's friend, Terry Melcher, owner of a record company. Family members clean the Canoga Park house, set up their instruments, and prepare vegetables, lasagna, salad, French bread, freshly baked cookies, and marijuana. They are hoping Melcher will agree to record the music they've been preparing to trigger Helter Skelter. Melcher doesn't arrive. March 23rd. Entering uninvited upon 10050 Cielo Drive, which he has known as the residence of Terry Melcher, Manson gets a cool reception from a male friend of Sharon Tate, who, with her husband, Roman Polanski, is the new lessee. Tate looks on. Manson, who possibly knows Melcher no longer lives at the place, has come calling for someone and is told to check the guest house. After briefly going back to the guest house, he leaves. In the evening, when he enters the property again, Manson is received with an equal lack of enthusiasm at the guest house by landlord Rudy Altobelli, an entertainment industry figure who had met him the previous summer through Dennis Wilson. Though Manson asks for Melcher, he prolongs the conversation with Altobelli and attempts to establish a connection with him. Altobelli, who will be going to Europe the next day, lies that he will be out of the United States for a year. He gives Manson incomplete information about Melcher's new location. In learning that Manson had been directed to the guest house by persons at the main house, Altobelli expresses his wish that Manson not disturb his tenants. Manson leaves. Tate later asks Altobelli whether that creepy-looking guy showed up at the guest house. April 1st. The family starts settling back into the Spahn Ranch, which they had quit after owner George Spahn, under pressure from police, had shut down an unlicensed nightclub they'd set up at the ranch to raise money for their preparations for Helter Skelter. They will not concern themselves with Spahn's objections. During Helter Skelter, they must be at Spahn, from which they'll have a clear escape route to the desert. Mid-June. While Manson and family member Paul Watkins are discussing Helter Skelter, Manson tells Watkins, "It looks like we're going to have to show Blackie how to do it." July 27. In a dispute over money, family member Bobby Bisalos, I'm having trouble saying this word, Busalosi acts on Manson's instruction to murder family acquaintance Gary Hinman. After stabbing Hinman to death, what's this guy's first name? Bobby writes "political piggy" on a wall in Hinman's blood. August 6. Bobby is arrested after he is caught driving Hinman's car. The knife he used to stab Hinman is found in the car's tire well. August 8th. In the afternoon, Manson tells the family members, "Now is the time for Helter Skelter." August 9th. After midnight, acting on Manson's instruction, 3 family members, including Tex Watson, slaughter Sharon Tate and 4 other persons on the premises of 10050 Cielo Drive. Susan Atkins, one of the killers, writes "pig" on the house's front door in Sharon Tate's blood. When the killers and the 4th family member who accompanied them return to Spahn Ranch, Watson assures Manson it was Helter Skelter. August 10th. After midnight, 3 family members acting on Manson's instruction slaughter Lino LaBianca and his wife Rosemary at their Los Feliz home next door to a house at which Manson and family members had attended a party the previous year. Using LaBianca's blood, one of the killers writes "Rise" and "Death to Pigs" on the living room walls. She writes "Helter Skelter" on the refrigerator. Impact. Tex Watson, who as noted above was with Manson when Manson first heard the White Album, took part in both the Tate murders and the crimes. And the LaBianca murders. Indeed, in his own recounting of the crimes, he is the only killer to participate directly in every one of the 7 homicides, and is the sole killer of at least 3 of the victims. While awaiting trial, he told other family members, "It seemed like I had to do everything." On the late 1968 day he and Manson first heard the album, Watson separated himself from the family, which he did not rejoin until the following March 1969. By that time, Manson's prophecy had captured the group's imagination, but Watson would be a while in grasping its details. In his 1978 autobiography, as told to Ray Hoekstra, he wrote as follows: "Although I got it in bits and pieces, some from the women and some from Manson himself, it turned out to be a remarkably complicated yet consistent thing that he, Manson, had discovered and developed in the 3 months we'd been apart. It was exciting, amazing stuff Charlie was teaching, and we'd sit around him for hours as he told us about the land of milk and honey we'd find underneath the desert and enjoy while the world above us was soaked in blood."